Thank you so much again for joining. I really appreciate everyone's time in being here today. And it is really great to see so many people here. I was a little bit concerned. I did think to myself, gosh, are there really that many difficult and challenging learners in our lives? Because in vet, these learners are our neighbours, our tradies, they're our hairdressers and our farmers. They're people just like you and I. And from time to time, we can probably all be difficult and challenging in our behaviours. So it is great to see you all here. And I hope that this session, by the end of it, will help you in working with anyone that happens to be difficult or challenging in your job role in vet. I feel quite privileged to work with absolutely amazing students at Excelia. I receive so much gratitude every day, and it hasn't always been that easy. I respect our learners as equals. We are all adults at different varying points on our learning journey. But as I said, I haven't always had the comfort of receiving gratitude and thanks for supporting such amazing clients. I come from a background of complaints management in a corporate level. So I've had roles with all sorts of varying titles, such as resolutions, team leaders, customer retention, customer relations, complaints manager, for companies from very large insurance companies to electricity providers. So the sorts of companies and industries that often get a lot of quite heated complaints directed at them. I'm also a mother of 3. So I've had plenty of days, both in my work and home life, that start and end with difficult and challenging situations. At some point along the journey, I crossed this line, an imaginary line, I believe, from being a team leader and the person to go to for help, the person to go to when a situation needed calms down, to the team trainer and training others to work with those situations. And eventually I found my passion in delivering and training vet. So today I'd like to share what I've learnt with you in my experiences through both of those different sides of my career, and bringing that together to support difficult and challenging learners in vet. Sorry if I'm not speaking loud enough. I'll try and project a little bit further for you. So I'm really looking forward to sharing with you what I've learned on my journey, both as a complaints manager and as a trainer and assessor. And as we start to unravel and think about this, we do need to look at it from 2 different perspectives. And I can bring in my perspective of complaints management because at the end of the day, I view our learners and our students as clients. They are paying to receive a service and should receive a service the same as any other client. So I think when you have a different perspective, it can change the way that you work with and deal with your learners, particularly if they are being difficult or challenging. I'm just going to pop up a quick poll just to see how you guys think that you would generally respond in or react as we're going to explore further in these types of situations. So that's just coming up there now. Your answer is anonymous, so I won't know who's answered what, and you are welcome to respond so we can gauge how people tend to react if they are in a difficult situation that they've encountered where they're being yelled at and blamed for all of these different things that are probably not their fault. Okay. The first thing that I'd like to chat through today is defining our learners' characteristics. So what's the first thing that I do when it comes to receiving a complaint? The first thing that I do is research. It's very easy for us to quickly react, and I prefer to take action rather than reaction. So when we start to do a little bit of research, whether that's very quickly while the person's on the phone or before we pick up the phone and give them a call, If the person's in front of you, you might not have this chance so much, but you can still think to yourself, where is this person coming from? What is their perspective on things? And seeking to understand the learner's perspective is the first step in preventing us from reacting in defense. It's the natural reaction is to defend. I think we could probably reflect on physics a little bit. In Newton's third law, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So we want to really move away from reaction, because if someone is directing forcefully at us, we don't want to react in that same way equally back at them. It's just going to escalate the situation. So I can see in our response, the majority of people have agreed that they would just take the time to quickly think about how they're going to get the outcome that they desire, and to think about that response before they act. Some people have also very honestly, thank you, answered that they react in a defensive way, which can, as I said, escalate the situation. If we start putting this same force back onto the other person that they're giving to us, it's very unlikely that we're going to reach a amicable outcome for everybody. Some people have also quite honestly answered, thank you, that they tend to stay quiet, just swallow it down and try and make sure that the situation works itself out, so that they don't escalate into further conflict. And that's a really common reaction for us, both in our own personal lives as well as in our work lives. It's very common to take the road of just keeping quiet, sucking it up and walking away, because it feels easier. So thank you so much for all those people who responded to that particular quiz. It's interesting to see that we had nearly exactly the same amount of people reacting defensively as those that tended to just keep quiet and sit there and take it. And of course, that's not right at the end of the day either, that you should be on the receiving end of complaints when they do tend to get heated and escalated. You feel like it's starting to be directed at you personally. So I'd just like to come back to the slide that we have up here in understanding the perspective of the learner. Where are they coming from? And having empathy for how they might be feeling at that time. Quickly doing some research on all the other things going on in the background. How old is this person? Where are they from? What industry do they work in? How are they used to communicating with people? What sort of mind frame are they in? What sort of barriers have we got to learning and understanding? So it really comes back to then understanding the perspective of the problem. And of course, at this point, recognizing triggers from LLN difficulties. And this can be a huge part of dealing with difficult and challenging learners. We could probably run a whole nother webinar on dealing with difficult and challenging learners due to language literacy and numeracy skill gaps all to itself. So I'm actually not really going to touch on that so much today. But it's really important to acknowledge at this point, when we're exploring all the different reasons that a person is feeling upset and angry about a situation, is that it can be due to simply not understanding what's required of them due to a particular skill gap. So always consider that number one. Once you've had a think about who it is that you're speaking with, consider, of course, if there is any potential language literacy or numeracy skill gaps that are causing the root of this particular problem. Over and above that, we're just investigating and understanding who it is that you're really talking to and connecting with them, building trust through dealing with the situation in a diplomatic way. Once you have that person's trust and they know that you really want to help them, the whole tone of the conversation is going to change. We can't actually get to that point unless we understand and connect with our learners first. And I'll keep coming back to that point throughout today's presentation, just understanding who you're talking to and understanding their perspective of the problem. It's quite often the problem is not necessarily going to be what is being voiced in the first place or what's being yelled the loudest. So, where's the root of problems coming from? Language literacy and numeracy requirements aside, and even taking that into account, quite often what drives us to react is fear. And this can be fear of all different things that we might not even understand. So we have to think about not only how the student is feeling, but also how we are feeling and how we are reacting with a situation. So I won't trouble you with too many polls today, but I've got another one to launch just to get you thinking about this. So here it comes now. So when we start to think about fear, and there's a few acronyms for fear that you may have heard before. So a couple that I've just popped up here on the top corner of the screen. Fear is often communicated as representing false evidence appearing real. So when things start to really build up in our mind, we start to get this perception of things affecting us a lot more than what they might actually be going to. But fear drives a lot of different confronting situations. And particularly, I find it's often fear of embarrassment. So I was pretty nervous about coming here today. I realized it was 10 minutes to, and I had that little funny butterflies in my tummy before I started talking to you, because my head irrationally, subconsciously, would have been fearing embarrassment. I might forget what I'm going to say. I might say the wrong thing. I might not say it quite the way that I meant it. And it's our perception of others and how others perceive us that often drives us. So when we're talking about our learners, that can be the perception that they're feared of how you might think of them as their trainer. It can be the perception of fear of embarrassment in front of their colleagues or their boss, that they haven't yet achieved an outcome that they said that they'd achieve. So quite often fear can come back into the realm of how others are going to perceive us and what we do. And it's just really important to understand that driving factor behind difficult and challenging situations, because it's not on the surface. It's something that's subconscious and behind pushing forward. And that's what's causing the over-amplified emotions. Somebody's worried that they might not finish their course. They're worried that they're not going to get the job that they need or want. All these different reasons are fears that we can, as their trainer or as their support staff or as the frontline staff in an RTO, these are fears that we can dispel. We can relieve them of these fears and get down to what the actual problem is and resolve that to come to a happy outcome for everybody. And this is on both sides of the fence. So thank you so much to everyone who responded in that poll, because we're considering not only how the learners are feeling and what situations and outcomes they might be fearing, but we're also considering how you might be feeling. If you are very uncomfortable about any sort of situation that starts to become confronting, then why do you think that is? How is it uncomfortable to you? It starts to come back to your feelings a bit deeper than just being uncomfortable on the surface. So I think let's have a look at our results here. We had pretty even numbers coming in that people that are with us today are worried about being yelled at, which is a really good concern because being yelled at is not nice. Nobody wants to have someone else raising their voice at them and projecting this anger towards them as if it was your fault. And that's the first thing that we do, is start to sort of defend ourselves. It's just a natural reaction to being yelled at, and it really doesn't help if we go into defense mode. So you're quite right to fear being yelled at, and it's really not pleasant, and it creates a defensive reaction. But at the end of the day, somebody yelling at you, you just have to put yourself to the side and understand that they're not yelling at you personally. They're just voicing their own emotions and frustration, and it's all coming out at you. So you're best to just soak it up and brush it off. Pretend you're a duck with those beautiful oily feathers that it's just all going to run off. So listen to everything that they might have to say, as long as they're not being rude or abusive or swearing too much. Just let them go. Let them get it out and listen, and you'll start to hear these really key points of why they're actually worried, what fears are driving them to feel like this. A lot of people have also responded that they're a bit worried about dealing with confronting situations because they might get angry themselves. So that's that defense mechanism coming in. When you get yelled at, you get angry and upset yourself because you're defending yourself in that situation. So as soon as you understand that they're not yelling at you and let the screams just go past you while you're listening to it, then you can not react with that anger that you might do in a situation. It's a lot harder if it's a loved one, but when we're working with other adults, we don't always all act like adults, but when we're working with other adults, it's important to understand that that's going past you, and that can help you from getting angry or upset. And getting upset is different to getting angry. Some people may have had bad personal experiences in the past in confronting and challenging situations. So if someone starts yelling at them, it can be very easy to feel upset, not to the point of anger, but to the point of sadness, in tears, because it triggers emotional responses in us. So it's really important to help deal with other people's emotional responses to first understand your own emotional response. And once you can understand your own emotional response, you can then put that to the side and understand they're not yelling at me personally. There's no reason to take this personal and get upset or angry. We've got the highest percentage of responses. Thank you for coming in at the moment for not knowing what to say. So I'm about to help you with that in the next slide when we get into it a bit further, and I'll give you a copy to take away so that hopefully that helps you to know what to say regardless of the situation. It's not a script that I am going to give you, but it's just a guidance so that you can alleviate the situation without having to think too much about what to say. So if we start to panic, we start to get upset or angry, then we're no longer logically thinking about things just as much as the difficult or challenging person's probably not logically thinking about things anymore either. So we want to make sure we stay in that ballpark of logical, critical thinking and not move into emotional responses like everyone else. We've also had a reasonable amount of people respond that one of the main things they fear about getting into a confronting situation is being wrong or embarrassed. And I think this is a really key area. We do naturally tend to avoid conflict because no one likes being wrong or admitting they're wrong. Sometimes it's actually the easiest thing to do. as long as you are not admitting liability or fault where it shouldn't be, just to keep somebody happy. If there's a mistake being made, own it, own your mistake, and that's straight away going to calm down the situation. If you know that things weren't quite done right by this person, or they've got a little bit of legitimacy in their what they're projecting at you, that something's been done wrong, then acknowledging that is the first step in resolving that complaint. Once you've acknowledged it, then you can deal with it like adults, logically and not emotionally. So being wrong is certainly something that we err from naturally, but it's also what can help solve the situation. Being embarrassed, I think, is one that I've probably personally just overcome from many, many years of dealing with different types of complaints and different types of confronting situations throughout my roles. But being embarrassed is probably how the other person's feeling too. So it's quite, once again, that natural reaction that's coming from fear. So the embarrassment's probably actually coming from fear of one of the other things, fear that you don't know what you're going to say, or fear you're going to get angry, or fear you're going to be wrong, which you could find embarrassing. So it's all coming back to what other people think of you then, isn't it? If you are avoiding a situation due to embarrassment, the person's not going to think any more or any less of you if you should fall quiet for a moment, not knowing what to say, or if you tell them that you'll look into it and call them back. But you don't really want to do that, because that's just going to leave them there to build up more and more steam and voice their opinion to everyone else, and then they've got everyone else's 2 cents agreeing with them, and they're just going to be even more heated the next time. So sometimes you might need to just let it go and give them a call back, but my personal recommendation would be to do so as soon as possible and not leave it for a long period of time. I mean, 10 minutes later, call them back. I've had a chance to have a look into this for you. Let's have a chat through it. So what can we say in these situations? Once we understand now we've got emotional reactions from ourselves, we've got emotional reactions from the other person, how can we deal with this? How can we actually put this into something that we can use? So I'll provide a copy of this slide. This is just defining the priorities that you need to deal with in this type of a situation with a difficult or challenging learner. As I mentioned at the start, this particular list does not take into account language literacy and numeracy needs. It could very well be at the root of your problem, and that comes back to the number one, understanding and the perspective of what's really going on. So here are 8 points that if you work through these, and you might need to go back and do it again and do it again, but working through them, you'll eventually get to point 8. So starting with communicating that you're willing and able to help is such an important step, because once the person knows that you genuinely want to help them and that you can help them, not just that you want to, but you can help them, it's automatically going to all tone down a step. In gaining their trust and amicability, you're already halfway there. So communicate very clearly that you are willing and able to help. I'm here to help you. The next step is to empathize by acknowledging their feelings. You don't have to agree with their feelings. You don't have to agree with what they're saying, but you can still acknowledge how they're feeling. And then you've got their understanding that you understand them. So we come back again to understanding the situation. So you've told them, I'm here to help you. I understand how you're feeling. That must be really horrible that that's happened. Let's see what we can do about it. Once you've communicated that you're there to help and that you understand how they're feeling, you can start to really explore the facts of the situation. What's really going on here? And you can do that just by summarizing what they've said to you in a very clear and polite, calm manner back to them. So if you take notes, if you're the sort of person that tends to scribble a little bit as you're having a conversation, just keep in mind those key points that they've mentioned all the way through, those key triggers, and repeat that back. So from your understanding, this is the situation. You're still not trying to jump in and resolve it. You're just letting them know that you understand again. And making sure that you do clearly understand, because you don't want to then take the wrong action from here. So you can then invite them to challenge your summary of your understanding of the situation. If you just push forward, assuming that you know and understand, it's not going to help. Even though you know that maybe the real reason is just all about this extension date, let's just get this extended and get this person off the phone, get them to pay for the extension. Come on, mate, just give me your credit card and we'll extend it and you'll be fine. It's probably not the root cause of the reason that they need an extension in the first place, that they haven't finished their course in the first place. So invite them to debate further and clearly define exactly what the problem is. Ask them, is that correct? Is my understanding of this situation correct? By this time, they should actually be able to calmly tell you if it is or not. And you'll probably get a bit of a repeat of the opening for it, but you'll know exactly what's going on. I think somebody has raised their hand. You are welcome to ask questions at any time in the Q&A. There, down on your little controls, there's a little Q&A, and there's also a dedicated chat. So if you do have any questions, please pop them in there and I'll be happy to answer. So moving through this conversation, and this could apply to a written response or a verbal response. If we were putting this in writing, we would still follow the same process, thanking them and understanding and communicating that you're there to help, and then outlining the facts. If you're popping it in writing, you might not be able to go through with step 4, but you can still provide the opportunity for them to discuss it further at that point. Once you've gotten to this point that you clearly understand the picture, the other person knows you clearly understand the picture and want to help, then we can start rationalizing and explaining the situation and the reasoning and alleviating all those fears. And the only way to really alleviate those fears is to provide clarity, because it's generally fear of something that isn't actually going to affect them. It's generally false evidence appearing real or false emotions appearing real. So at this point, explaining the reasoning behind how this situation's come about and what they need to do about it, and providing a really clear outcome for them is going to be taken a lot better. If you come straight in at this step and respond straight away, assuming that you know what their complaint's about, you've heard it 10 times before from 10 other people, and just go straight into trying to explain the situation and rationalize it, the person's probably not thinking rationally at that point. They're really upset and emotional, and trying to drive in rational thinking at that point is potentially going to make them feel more upset and misunderstood. So wait until you're at this point to start rationalizing and explaining the situation. Once you've clearly illustrated the why and the how and the what and the when, then a lot of those fears should have fallen away. And you can then start to move on to an actual resolution, an actual outcome. This is what we're going to do about it. How does that sound? And gaining their agreement, how does that sound? It's an open question. It's not a yes, no answer. You are demanding in a very amicable way that they provide an actual response to how they feel about the outcome you've provided. Now, at this point, you might need to go all the way back up to step one and go, look, I'm only here to help. I understand how you're feeling, but the facts are this. So you could get all the way down to number 7 on this list here and have to go all the way back up to number 1 and start working your way through it again. Once you get down to the point that they understand rationally, clearly, exactly what the situation is and what's going to be done about it, and they agree to that, then they're taking responsibility. They're taking responsibility for their actions, and they're taking responsibility for the outcome. And that's going to make them feel so much better, and it'll make you feel much better too. Then you can confirm. So you want to make sure there's no miscommunication in this situation. It is really easy to want to run away and hang up the phone at this point and go, phew, thank goodness for that. I have dealt with this situation. But it's really important to follow through with step 8 and confirm the solution. Repeat again. So this is what we're going to do about it, step by step. Follow through with an email if it's been a verbal conversation, and put that in writing. This is exactly what we discussed you're going to do about it, and this is what we're going to do about it. So make sure those two sides of responsibility are really clear. This is what we're going to do about it. This is what you agreed you would do about it. They've provided you their agreement to this solution. In confirming the solution, you'll then automatically uncover any further issues that hadn't been voiced at that stage because they were too embarrassed to voice them, or because they simply hadn't thought about it from that perspective. So follow these through all the way to the end, wash, rinse, repeat as necessary when you get down to step 7. And I hope that that will help you in future in dealing with any difficult or conflicting situations. So as I mentioned, we'll provide a copy of this slide. I'd like to demonstrate and pop that all into action. So we have up here, and hopefully everyone can see and hear it clearly, an email from a student. So this email's come through. They've said, hi, I'm doing the WHS diploma with you guys, and I'm disgusted with the service I'm getting. I've been working in rail industry for 24 years and keep getting told that I'm not competent when I know I am is insulting. I'm now told I'm out of time to complete this, and that is just not fair. This is probably something that everyone's familiar with hearing. Very abrupt, open communication. We can see straight away that it's been written with some grammar and spelling issues. So that can automatically help us to understand the person and where they're coming from. We can understand straight away that they might be feeling embarrassed because they're being told they're not yet competent. So it's insulting, but it's probably also embarrassing. So they've been told they're out of time to complete it, and it's just not fair. As my boss said, I could get it done by April, I'd be able to move into this role permanently. And now it's May, and because you guys keep telling me I'm not competent, I'm at risk of losing my job. So we can see there's all these facets of fear coming in here: fear of losing their job, fear of not getting the permanent role, fear of not passing. It's the 3rd time I've submitted this assessment only to be told I'm not competent. They stayed up working on it till 3 a.m. and are about ready to quit. So they're going to their local member and going to complain to ASQA. So all that responsibility has been shifted away from them, and they're going to go higher up to ASQA. So a very common sort of complaint that we might come across. Let's use those guiding principles that we just read through to talk to Jack and see if we can resolve this situation. So hopefully Jack's there at the moment. So I'm going to call Jack up. We're going to work through this.
Yeah, Jack speaking.
Hi, Jack. My name's Jasmine. I'm calling from Excelia. Is now a good time to have a quick chat?
Oh, Excelia. Yeah, all right. I've got a couple of minutes.
All right, I'll try and make this quick and get everything cleared up for you. I'm reaching out following your email about the WHS diploma. I'd like to help ensure you have a clear path forward, Jack, as it sounds like you're under a bit of pressure there to get this finished.
Look, I really don't think you guys understand what I'm going through at the moment. You know, I've got 2 young kids at home. The missus is working 2 jobs. I'm doing rail shift work as well. The boss promised me this new position that I've been acting up in. And if I don't get that done, you know, I was given until March, but because you guys kept holding me up with all your confusing assessment tasks and things like that, now it's well into May. I still haven't get it done. I've been working until 3 a.m. trying to get this thing done, juggling work, you know, and now I get sent these emails saying my course is about to expire, and you know, it's just I'm really disgusted with the service, and it's actually just appalling. I really feel like actually you guys are holding me up, holding my progression back. Really upsetting.
Thanks so much for letting us know how you're feeling about this, Jack. We can do something about it now. And I'm genuinely here to help. So we might not have much time today, but we'll do as much as we can to get this all resolved for you.
That's all I've heard from you guys, is that I'm here to help. I'm here to help. But, you know, are you going to help me when I've lost my job?
We'll certainly try and help you to finish this so that you don't lose your job and everything turns out okay. And then your wife will be a bit happier with you there at home as well. So let's focus on getting this finished, and I'm sure everything will fall into place for you. You've been pretty busy there at work lately, have you?
Oh, you got no idea, really.
And so you're doing it at 3 a.m. once the kids are in bed, is that right?
Yeah, well, it's about the only time I get to work on it at the moment, with the way things are.
That can be one of the hardest things sometimes, just finding the time to do it. And then, of course, finding what you've got to do in that short amount of time that you've got to do it. So I think we can get together a bit of a plan for you to make it really clear when you do get that time exactly what you need to do. And we'll see if we can maybe forward you a letter that might help to get some more study time allocated in your work time. I understand you're flat out at work as well, but doing it at 3 a.m. might not end up getting you the best results either. So if the boss wants you to finish this, we want you to finish it. Let's see if we can get a bit of a study plan and action plan in place. So I understand that you've got a couple of things left to go in your course and your time's running out as well. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I got a message saying it was already expired, and yeah, so I guess I'm out of time.
Look, after all the hard work that you've put in, Jack, we couldn't just leave you at this point. So if you're willing to finish off these last few tasks and dedicate the time to getting it done in the next couple of weeks, then we'd be more than happy to provide an extension for you to make sure that you can get this finished.
Righto.
All right. So we can pop a bit of extra time on there. You don't have to worry about that. We're here to help you graduate at the end of the day. We want you to finish it as much as you want to finish it as well. We just need to make sure that we are meeting the requirements of the unit that you're completing at the moment. And there's a couple of things just still outstanding there. So I'll run through those with you just to make sure that you know exactly what is needed to finish off. And then I'll give you some guidance about how long you need to allocate to get that done in the next couple of weeks to make sure it's all finished before this extension ends. How does that sound?
Well, yeah, all right. I mean, I've already tried to submit it, but it just keeps coming back. And the lady, I don't remember her name, but she, you know, she keeps saying I'm submitting it blank, but I'm submitting the risk management tool, and she's saying it's not filled in, and she keeps telling me about some report I've got to submit. I don't know what she's on about with that.
All right, well, it looks like you've got 3 submissions to go. One of those is the report. You've also got the Q&A and the risk management tool. So you've filled it all in. You keep sending us the blank one. Maybe you've saved over the top of it. Have you checked to make sure all the information is in there before you submit it? It's pretty easy to submit the wrong version sometimes.
Oh, right. So I've got to actually fill it in.
Yeah, you do have to complete it. We provide the template there for you to give you the guidance to make sure that you are thinking about all the right aspects, but you will need to complete it and fill it in based on your role there, or based on the different requirements that we've covered.
Yeah, well, I do these all the time at work, so I've got heaps of filled in ones I could put through for that one.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. We'll just check that the information on the ones you do at work matches the type of information we're asking for in the template. Sometimes workplaces and real life practice doesn't always quite line up with what we need to keep as evidence for your competency in this course. So just make sure that they do still match up the information that we need, and you're welcome to send it through and check first if you'd like to, just so that you're sure. But that'll save you that time in filling it out if you have got some other ones there. If they don't quite include all the information we're looking for, then I'm sure by the sounds of it, you're pretty experienced in this, so you'll be able to fill one in no time.
Righto.
All right, fantastic. So you know exactly what you've got to do then. You know you've got that report to do. We just need it filled in. So get that through to us as soon as you can. You've got your risk management tool there to complete as well, and then the Q&A. So you do this all the time at work. Just focus on it like you would any work task. Dedicate that time to sitting down and doing it, because you owe yourself that time. So don't put it off. And I'm sure that we'll get you finished this in no time. What I'm going to do today is just pop you out a quick email after we've had a chat. And I'd just like to confirm we're going to be extending your course for 2 weeks. You've got the 3 different documents left to submit, which I'll include a list of in the email. And they do need to all be completed and signed as well. Once we've got those through, then you'll receive your feedback quite quickly following that, and we'll be able to finalize everything for you and get that lovely certificate out to keep everyone happy.
Oh, mate, I'll be really bloody happy when that gets done. Yeah, all right. Well, look, I'll let the boss know that that's happening, and I think they should be pretty supportive with all that sort of stuff. So yeah, no, that sounds really, that's actually a huge weight off. What was your name again?
My name's Jasmine. So I'm here to help at any time, Jack. You give me a call anytime you need, and we'll always make sure that you know exactly what needs to go where.
All right. Thanks, Jasmine. See you later.
You're welcome. All the best. See you.
Bye.
Okay, so we touched on a few of these points right throughout that conversation. I hope everybody found that a helpful demonstration of how you can use these points to alleviate things and come away happy. And it really is a lot to do with mindset and responsibility. But at the end of the day, someone can hear you smile. And if you're smiling at the wrong time, you don't want to laugh at them. But smiling while you're talking to them can make all the difference. I can't help but smile when I'm talking on the phone. So just to answer your questions, it was not a rehearsed situation, but it was a role play. So thank you so much to Paul for coming in and joining us at that point to do that role play. So it was actually reasonably real in that I didn't script out exactly how I was going to respond. There's Paul. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Hello, this is Paul. I'm not really a disgruntled student of Excelia. That was lots of fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. You did it fantastic there, and I'm so glad you're happy now.
All the credit goes to you, Jasmine. Well done. Well handled. He was a prickly one.
It was a prickly one, yeah. But I just like to really stress, guys, there was no script for that. It was not completely pre-rehearsed. I just followed the slide that's right here in front of you and me to work through that situation. So I communicated with Jack that I was there to help right from the very beginning. My first sentence to him, I'm here to help. I want to make sure you have a clear path forward. I communicated that I understood, gee, he must be busy at work. He's got the kids to put to bed. No wonder he's doing it at 3 a.m. And then we covered the facts. So the real situation was he was running out of time and he actually didn't know what to do. But we had to cover that pretty politely and tactfully so that we don't want to make him feel embarrassed because of that whatsoever. We want to be on that same pathway or on that same wavelength when we are illustrating what the facts are, understanding of that. We then got Jack's agreement when we offered the solution. So we provided him the reasons why things were going on, and this is what we're going to do about it. And we got his agreement to that and then confirmed it all again at the end. So just simply following these very loosely without any particular script, but just those key prompts can really help you to work through any situation with a difficult or challenging learner or client or customers. So they are, thanks Shada, they are quite real situations that we all come across in different and varying levels, but at the end of the day, it's often quite similar. So as I said at the beginning, I feel very blessed to work with amazing students at Excelia, and we tend to attract more amazing students because of those amazing graduates we have. So fortunately, I don't find myself dealing with many situations like that, but you're quite right. When we do, it plays along a very similar sort of pathway as it does in most complaints. So I hope everyone found that demonstration really helpful and the way of working through the priorities of that. And I'm going to come back to the responsibility and mindset now, just to finish this off for us, because keeping positive yourself and taking responsibility yourself for a situation on behalf of the organisation, not you personally, nothing's breaking inside of you. It's an organisation you're representing. So taking that responsibility on behalf of the organisation, keeping positive about it, it's going to have this flow-on effect to your learners. If you're positive and taking responsibility, then naturally, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So you're going to, by not reacting but acting, create this positive and responsible mindset coming back the other way. And that's really the key. You want to finish the conversation on a positive note with responsibility being taken on both people's behalves if required. So it's up to you and to keep that positive mindset. And it's not always easy to have it run off your back like the feathers of a duck. We're not ducks at the end of the day. We've got pretty sensitive skin as humans. So keep in mind, don't react emotionally yourself because someone else is emotional in that situation. React with a positive and responsible mindset, and that will help to ensure the best possible outcome for everybody. I really hope everyone enjoyed that session and found those hints and tips helpful. I'd love to take any questions. If anybody has any, I'd be more than happy to go through them. So we've got a comment or question here from James. Instead of feeling confronted and frustrated, confronted and threatened by the client's feelings, we should share them. Yes, we are also frustrated and annoyed the problem exists. Exactly, James. Thank you. So it's a shared emotion. And by keeping that positive and responsible mindset, not the frustrated, annoyed one, as long as we stay frustrated and annoyed that it's even happening and it's wasting my time, I just wish that'd get fixed in the back end and I wouldn't be having to deal with this. You can voice that, but then get over it. By voicing it, you're going to let the customer or the learner understand that you understand them, but we need to act responsibly with a positive and good mindset looking forward towards it. So we're not going to solve the problem being upset and frustrated about it. So thank you, everyone. I don't think we've got any other questions. Is that from James? Yeah, that's it. Well, thank you so much to everyone for joining us. Hope to see you next time for another one of Excelia's PD sessions. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone.